Hey guys, welcome back to another video. Today's chronicle is what's your most shameful NSFW moment. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Story 1. When I was around 10 or 11 years old, my dad got my brother and I a computer to use. He set it up in the den and pretty much allowed us free unsupervised access to it. He had gone out with his friends one night, and my brother, one of his friends, and myself were on the internet just typing in random things and adding com to it. Now back in the early 2000s, it didn't take long for us to stumble upon corn, which led us to clicking on more and more corn links because we were all like, holy shit, there's naked women on here. Eventually, we bricked the computer and it blue screened on us. Instead of turning it off and unplugging the computer and turning off the monitor, we just left it and went to bed. My dad got home and saw the blue screen, did the Alt-Delete trick to pull up the task manager, saw that we had corn pulled up on the web browser. At this point, he makes us all come out into the den, sits us on the couch, and tries to make us confess to why the computer was blue screen. We of course shrugged and acted like we had no clue. He then turned the monitor on and went through the internet history. We all had to sit there while my dad clicked through some of the most heinous debased shit I've ever seen in my life. The whole time he was just reading out the history, and then he'd say something like, Jesus fucking Christ, what the hell is wrong with you all? Yeah, that computer did not last very long. Story 2. During the 90s and early 2000s, we bought a pub and moved into it. It had a big screen downstairs and we lived above, but Sky Sports was so expensive for the business account we basically hooked the giant screen to our box upstairs, so whenever the sport was on it would show on the screen downstairs. So we couldn't watch TV upstairs except for what was being shown on the big screen when this was happening. Anyway, one Sunday evening around 10 p.m. after the sport, bear in mind the sport finished at 6 p.m., I was freely browsing through channels because the giant screen has been wound up into the ceiling, and my 14-year-old self came across some softcore corn. Curious, I started watching it. Suddenly there was a big buzz from the phone that connected to downstairs. I answer it. It's my mom with laughing in the background. What are you watching? I was just flicking through channels. Well, you've stayed on that one for a while, haven't you? I forgot about the small TV in the bar area. It was still on and was showing the entire pub what my horny 14-year-old ass was watching. I was mortified. Luckily, my mom never brought it up again, and neither did any of the customers, thankfully. Story 3. Holy shit, I can actually relate to this. In grade 9, we didn't have internet at home, which wasn't unusual at the time. I saw this lady on Maury Povich that had really large breasts, and she advertised her WEBPAGE. This was something I just had to see. The internet was still enough of a novelty that any website was worth checking out, but corn was, up until now, only available by stealing dirty magazines. So the next day in design class, I take the computer at the far end of the room, which was flanked by the darkened windows of an adjacent classroom. You can guess where this is going. I turn the screen away from my classmates and teacher and start looking at the glorious, bountiful bosoms of this Maury Povich guest. Moments later, I notice movement in my peripheral vision, and when I turn my head, I see that the classroom I thought was empty was in fact full. It was full of laughing and pointing seniors. Their teacher rushes in the room screaming, "You can't do that." She grabs me by the wrist and physically pulls me to the principal's office. The principal was the best. He just looked at me and asked, "No internet at home?" And when I said no, he said, "Well, I think you've been through enough. Don't do it again," with a chuckle, and let me go without further punishment. Needless to say, I was pretty much famous in my high school, and in the worst way possible. People would literally point and laugh at me in the halls. Hey, it's the corn guy. Fuck my life. Story 4. When I was 12, my younger sister walked in on me playing Fondle the Dongle. I told her I couldn't pee and was trying to pump it out. She told my mom out of worry, said I needed a doctor to help me pee. When mom confronted me about what my sister was saying, I then had to explain it to her. Story 5. When I was with my ex, we did some long distance for a while. While I am not about sending nudes, after not seeing each other for a long time, you kinda get an urge to see the other person naked. So, nudes were exchanged. She was mostly interested in close-ups of my erect penis, so I sent those. Upon returning home, I discovered that she had set a picture of my erect penis as my profile picture on her phone, meaning that if I'd call her, my penis would be presented on the screen in all its glory. I told her this was a very stupid idea. What if I'd call and her phone was laying around somewhere? She said she never had her phone laying around so no one would see. I didn't think much of it. Few weeks later, we were having dinner with her parents and she was talking about getting a new phone. Her father, with a straight face and in between 2 bites of his food, remarked, "Gee, if you get this new phone, does that mean you'll install a different picture for when he calls you?" I died 1,000 deaths. Story 6. This reminds me, back in high school I was eating my girlfriend out in my room, and my mom had a habit of only knocking 1 or 2 times really quickly and then just letting herself in. So mom walks in and she's like, "Sorry," and walks out. The next time I saw my mom alone, she was like, "I don't want to walk in on my son going down on his girlfriend." And I said, "Don't walk in then." After that, she'd always knock and then just crack the door so she could say what she needed to say. Never fully walked into the room again after that. Story 7. I was 18, came home very drunk from a night out and hopped into bed with my then girlfriend. Fortunately for me, she woke up and was keen to fool around. Me being in the state I was in, didn't have time for lubricant or aiming and went in hard and fast. The first and only push led to what I can only imagine as the equivalent of snapping your Achilles tendon, except this tendon wasn't located on my leg. It was in fact my frenulum. Google it. Instantly, I panicked. I turned the light on and told my ex to hang on. I looked down to see that I had basically snapped my banjo string in half and essentially given myself a DIY circumcision. There was a lot of blood. I played it cool. My gut instinct was to run to the bathroom. Once I made it here, I wrapped my wang up in toilet paper like Tutankhamun, emptied out the toothbrush cup holder, filled it with warm water, and stuck my dick in the cup to try to cool it down. It hurt. By this time, I'd lost a fair amount of blood. And me being hypochondriac bad with blood, tried to sit down on the side of the bath to try not to pass out. Didn't work. Anyway, long story short, I woke up to my ex-girlfriend's dad standing over me at 7 a.m. in the morning after he had followed a trail of blood down the hallway to where he would normally take his morning shower. There I was, laying in the bathtub, passed out, dick wrapped up in toilet paper, shoved inside his toothbrush cup holder, naked as the day I was born, covered in blood. My partner at the time fell back asleep after I'd left the bedroom that night, and left her poor father to find me blackout drunk in his bathtub after trying to bang his daughter. He thought I was dead. I wished I was. Story 8. I was violently ill in my fiancé's house where we were living. While he was at work, his dad was working from home. I needed my mom to take me to the hospital. I screamed for my father-in-law's help, who entered the bathroom to my nude body, shitting and puking at the same time in his bathtub. He called my mom for me, and we never spoke about it. Story 9. I had started taking antidepressants when I was around 20 and didn't take delayed ejaculation as a side effect seriously. It was like blowing up a balloon to infinity, and it never pops, or shaking a soda that doesn't explode after being open. That being said, after masturbating myself started taking more than 10 minutes, I stopped. Around this time, I also started dating someone with a high libido, and she was okay with me not being able to finish but was into it a lot. One of those things was wanting me to stroke myself on her. Let me tell you the awkwardness that goes from stroking yourself in front of a smiling girl for half an hour. That smile turns into a bored look as we both sink into what we're doing. When she gave a defeated "Are you closed?" the floodgates opened, and after being delayed for nearly an hour, there was a lot. Even worse, I definitely made a guttural sound of mostly air as my knees almost gave out while it happened. Yeah, so I'm on a different antidepressant now. Story 10. A cheap bachelor party dildo melted in my bedside drawer after the AC in my room broke for a week. But I didn't know that until I got my hand stuck in it in front of a guy who was asking me out. I opened the drawer and reached in looking for my chapstick while we were talking. And to my absolute horror, I couldn't pull my hand back out. It was completely stuck to something. It turns out that a fake silicone vibrator I got as a gag gift melted around the 3 other real silicone ones and then started to cure again. It was like half-dry super glue, but shaped like a 4-headed dick. It looked weaponized, and crucially, it was stuck to my fucking hand. The dude tried to help me, but he just ended up getting it on his hands too. We had to take turns spraying each other with scalding hot water to get it off. I've never been so mortified in my life. Needless to say, we never saw each other again. Story 11. My God, my mom would shame me for everything, that I never wanted to tell her anything. After an ex broke up with me, I felt like shit as anyone does. Mom got up in my face asking me what was wrong, and I reluctantly told her. She then would use it to make fun of me when she was mad at things. She would say this is why you don't have a girlfriend anymore, and it made me furious. It still makes me furious, because she knew nothing about what happened, and the fucking audacity she has to act like she does and make fun of me for it still pisses me off. And she would do this right after she hit me, which of course I would block, and then she would claim I was the abuser and started howling. One time she flipped out when my girlfriend didn't want to come over yet, because her parents just didn't feel ready yet, which I understood and frankly didn't care because oh well, I can wait. She flipped out and started a verbal argument with them over the phone about it because she was somehow insulted. Then she wouldn't let me see her anymore. Then when she finally let me see her again, we met at a restaurant, I think. My girlfriend's mom apologized to me for getting into a verbal fight with my mom, which I was starstruck because we both knew in a million years it wasn't her fault, and yet she was trying to make it right. My girlfriend's mom left and we surprisingly had a good time. My mom comes to get me. I didn't have a car, I was like 17 or 16. I told her that my girlfriend's mom came to apologize, and my mom went berserk. She dumped me out of the car. I was stepping in and she drove away and called my girlfriend's mom and started screaming at her. I didn't get the entire conversation out of my girlfriend, but my mom was basically saying my girl's mom was filling my head with lies and calling them a lot of names. We broke up shortly after because of my girlfriend's frustration with everything that happened. I understood, and we still laugh about it when we talk. Story 12. Okay, so when I was probably 15, my girlfriend was sleeping over. We weren't supposed to be alone, but everyone else had gone to bed without checking on us, so we decided to have some fun in my room. My room was at the top of the house and had a staircase leading up to the door. I had hung up one of those dangling bead things at the bottom of the steps a long time ago because my door didn't have a lock on it and my family didn't respect boundaries. So if I heard the beads moving, I would know that I had about half a second before someone came barging into my room, which was better than nothing. So it's probably 11 p.m. and my girlfriend and I are having some pretty awkward teenage sex when I hear the beads. Panic. I think it's my stepdad coming upstairs to check on us because walking into my room at almost midnight to make sure I was in bed was normal for him. So I move as fast as I have ever moved in my life. I threw the blankets over my GF to cover her up. I had left my pants around my ankles for just this situation, so I reached down and yanked them up as fast as possible. The issue with this was that I had only managed to grab hold of my pants, not my underwear. This resulted in the underwear rolling up my very hairy legs, taking lots of said hair with it, and giving me the most painful self-inflicted wedgie of all time. Having no time to acknowledge the pain I was suddenly in, I rushed to the door to open it, trying to come up with some excuse as to why I was in a room alone with my GF. I opened the door, and to my surprise, there was no one there. I looked down a little bit, and staring up at me with his big dumb face was my family's dog. My girlfriend and I laughed about it after I was done unwedging myself, but the sexy time was definitely over. Story 13. I had food poisoning and my boyfriend had to clean up the entire bathroom. Woke up in the night feeling pretty bad, so I got up to go be sick. As soon as I got to the bathroom, I felt it coming, so I threw myself at the toilet and started throwing up. As I did, I started shitting all over the floor. We both sleep naked, so I wasn't wearing any pants. I had to jump up, sit on the toilet, and aimed my sick into the sink, which thankfully was right next to me and within reach. All the noise woke my boyfriend, who came and knocked on the door. I screamed, "Don't come in." But him being the caring and loving boyfriend he is, decided he would come and hold my hair out of my face for me, not realizing the absolute horror he was walking into. It was a tiny bathroom, just big enough for the bath, the toilet, and a sink, so not only was there liquid shit all over the floor, it had sprayed up the back of the door, the wall, the side of the bath, and the sink base. It was a bathroom in the center of the house too, so no windows to open for the smell. Story 14. He made me get in the shower while he cleaned up everything. We've never spoken about it since, but we've since gotten married, so he still loves me, I guess. We do keep a bowl in our new bathroom in our new house now in case we ever need to throw up while on the toilet so that we don't clog the sink. Story 14. Oh yeah, and one time I got to my ex-girlfriend's house and no one was home. So we proceeded to have super loud sex in the kitchen and then in her room, where we put some music on as well. After we finished, I got up and went to the kitchen for some water. Of course, I was naked cause no one was home and I love being naked. So I get the water, and as I'm going back up to her room, I hear a noise in the living room. I look to the left and sure enough, there are her parents staring at me. Mom gave a weird kind of grimace, but Dad merely looked at me like he'd just come back from the war. I left and didn't go back there for about a month. And it took me about 2 or 3 more before I could even make eye contact with Dad. He seemed fine though. I was way more embarrassed. Turns out they'd gone home looking for some private time as well, and for some reason hadn't said hello when we walked in. Also, they were pretty strict, so until then they had the understanding that their little princess was still a virgin. Every time I traveled with them after and before this, we stayed in different rooms and the whole shebang. Story 15. Here goes. I was 13 and had found my mom's vibrating bullet while she was at work. A little thing coated in rubber with a wire coming out the bottom leading to a little remote to control intensity. I had recently learned guys have G-spots from that scene with Sean Scott on a road trip milking the prostate. I was curious, so I proceeded to fully insert it to test it out. Didn't feel a thing from it even at the highest setting, so figured it was time to pull it out, except it wouldn't budge. I was getting worried and tugging with more and more force when the wire snapped off, leaving just the bullet inside. Had a mini panic attack before deciding to try pooping it out, which worked. I then washed it several times because the smell of poop on it just refused to go away. I finally gave up and packed it back away where I found it with the wire snapped and still smelling of poop. My mom never brought it up and I banned ass play from my life forevermore. Thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. TNH out.